Welcome into another edition of the Leadership Library, hosted by CEO and author Rocky Romanella. Rocky is the author of the book Tighten the Lug Nuts, The Principles of Balanced Leadership, and has over 40 years of business experience as a prominent member of the UPS Supply Chain Solutions team, as well as the CEO of Unitech Global Services. So sit back, grab your notebook, and take a seat, and get ready for this edition of the Leadership Library.
Welcome to the Leadership Library podcast. I'm your host, Rocky Romanella. I want to thank you for the last 6 episodes. We were talking about the year-end review. You know, I got a chance to think a little bit about that as well. And I know we talked about a lot of different topics, the 6 questions to ask yourself. I thought maybe what I would do is to kind of maybe summarize it in 4 key takeaways for you, which may just make it easier. And I think these 4 key things are very important, whether it's in a midpoint review, whether it's in a strategic planning process that you're putting together, whether it's a rollout of a new product or service. I think I kind of break them down into these 4 kind of buckets, if that's a good way to do it. And so for me, the 4 kind of buckets, when you think about what we talked about in the midpoint review, would be the same 4 buckets if you talked about building your strategic plan. And I think the first one is build. So if you think about it, we built the plan, right? And we, went through the process of building the plan, making sure that we all understood it. So that's the building part, whether you're building a new product or service in your organization, whether you're building your strategic plan for the next, 18 months to 3 years to 5 year. Whatever it is that you're trying to, improve or start, there's a build process, right? So number 1 would be, if you think about that bucket of building. Number 2 would be the validation, right? So we went in and we looked at the plan, we understood the plan made sense, the math made sense, but also the ability to execute made sense. It's no different than, you would validate a new product or service in your business, right? By doing maybe customer interviews, maybe talking to key customers, understanding how that fits inside the product portfolio, but also into the marketplace you're going to. So this the strategic plan, right? You would validate that maybe with the board or maybe with your investors or maybe with some key people inside your organization. So you have a build process, which I think is so important, starts the process, but then there's a validation process that's so important that you have, it's just that other set of eyes, taking a look at it and understanding it. I think then the third bucket would be this whole communication. How do I communicate this internally inside our organization, externally to maybe the individuals who be buying our products and services? How do I communicate this to the investment community? How do I communicate this to the share owners and stakeholders? So that communication process, how do I communicate it inside our organization? So that's why that communication piece is so important. So I think you build a process, you validate the process, and then you build a strong communication process. And then finally, I think number 4 is the execution piece of it, right? How do we execute? How do we hold ourselves accountable to the execution piece? What are the milestones along the way to help us make sure we're staying on plan? If we get off plan, how do we get back on plan? What are the adjustments we need to make? So if you think about what we talked about in this case, the year-end review with our 6 episodes, and then we talk about the other things that we do in business or in our personal lives, I really think it comes down to 4 key buckets. We build, we validate, we communicate, then we execute. So I just wanted to take a moment to kind of summarize it with those 4 key areas, because I think they're not only important in what we talked about in our year-end reviews, but I think they're also important in all the things that we're trying to accomplish, both in our personal and professional lives. We build, we validate, we communicate, and we execute. Thank you once again for being part of the Leadership Library family. I'm your host, Rocky Romanella. Until we meet again.
I wanna rock!